Carol, we still have a chance to get the boat back?
We're live streaming. We'll call this meeting to order. Jen, roll call,
Shelley
please.
Bryant, Anita Matt,
Present.
Charmel Gillen,
Una.
Carol Langford, Lynn Tutti, Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
James Steele Sr.
Okay, thank you. I'll say the prayer this morning. Creator, we thank you for being with us through this evening, our last evening. We pray that you're with us through the day. We pray that you're with us in all the decisions that we make today for our people. We pray for those who are in the hospital and those who are fighting addictions and those who have lost people through death this week. And we pray that you put your arms around them and give them strength. We thank you for the air that we breathe, the beautiful land that we are stewards of. And thank you for taking care of our families and all of us. We pray for each other and all of our families. All this in your name, amen. Okay, we have a set of minutes from July 15th.
Madam Chair, motion to approve.
Motion by Martin to approve. Do we have a second? Second by Ellie. All those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, and we have an agenda. Do we have any walk-ins, Jen?
I believe we have a possible walk and it's going to be Joel Claremont and then Mark's going to come down as well. So he's not here yet, so he'll be here.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda with additions?
Madam
Martin?
Chair, I was just going to introduce someone in the audience, if I could have a few minutes for that.
Okay.
Maybe in the walk-in time.
Motion by Charmel to approve the agenda with additions, second by Martin. All those in favor? Unanimous, motion carries. Go ahead, Martin, and introduce your guest.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to introduce Jace, if you want to come up to the table. I'll kind of let him introduce kind of what he's doing here. His name is Jace Smealy. He is grew up in Idaho. I recently found out that he is actually one of pretty close relative. He would be my dad's great nephew. And so he's going to school at George Mason University in Virginia. And it's actually kind of a cool project that he's doing with the university. So I'll let him explain that. And just wanted to give him the opportunity.
Thank you, Martin. Glad to meet you. Go ahead and turn your mic on and introduce yourself.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Martin. So my name is Jace Raymond Smaley. Like he said, I'll kind of introduce myself, and the project's kind of intertwined with who I am, a little bit. Like you said, I'm going to George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, where I'm studying to get my Master of Fine Arts in poetry writing. And my university has a unique opportunity. They have a writing center called the Schus Center for, I think it's an International Writer Center. I can't remember the exact title, but every year they sponsor Master of Fine Arts students with a grant to travel for research, for writing projects and different things like that. And usually it's an international only grant, but with COVID-19, they opened it up to domestic travel as well. And I applied for the opportunity to come here to Missoula and the Flathead reservation to learn about my family and who I am. I grew up in Pocatello, Idaho. My mom, Marisa, she was born in Helena, Montana, and then grew up with her family in Roy, Utah, in the Ogden area. She was adopted. Her birth mother was Danita Charlo, who was Albert Charlo's daughter, Albert being Vic Charlo, Martin's dad's brother. We grew up really not knowing anything about that. I always say, we knew that my mom had Native American heritage, but we because of her adoption, she grew up and we grew up most of my life not knowing even what tribe we were from or anything like that. And it was something that we started to look into a little bit more when I was around 18, getting ready to go to college. My mom requested a copy of her official birth certificate. From that, she learned her birth mother's name and was then able to start making limited contacts. That's how we learned at that point what tribe we were descendants of. My mom later enrolled in as a member of the tribe. I'm a descendant. I'm not able to enroll. And so through that, as a writer, as a poet, I've been trying to engage with different elements of my personal life and different interests in my writing. And I've been interested in family and heritage. And it's something I've written about a little bit. But when it comes to my Native American heritage, like I said, I grew up, not with no knowledge really of any, Native American heritage, the tribe, anything like that. And it's been a blind spot for me as I've tried to write and also just kind of grow both as a writer and as an individual. And these are some of the things that I put in my grant application to go. And I wanted to come here. And part of this grant, it's a pretty open-ended kind of thing. They in January, I'm supposed to write some type of creative work based on my experiences during my travels and things I've learned. And primarily, my purpose, I kind of feel like it's threefold. Well, 2.5 maybe. One being, again, that family connection. And I'm sponsored to travel for 3 weeks. I've been here for about 1.5 weeks now, so I'm close to halfway through my travels. This first time has been a lot of family connections and meeting. My mom's birth mother is no longer with us, but some of her sisters, my mom's aunts, are still around, and uncles that I've met and spent time with them and their families, and been able to open up some of those family relationships and connections that I've never had before. And then the other side too, that I'm hoping to spend more time with in the second half of my travels is to learn more about the tribe. And I met with Martin yesterday. We had a lot of really good conversations, and I was picking his brain about the issues that the tribe is facing in today's world, the issues that we're facing, and if there are ways that I can give back and again, I've expressed to Martin too, there's kind of this almost imposter syndrome, outsider syndrome, I feel a little bit, being, again, growing up away from the tribe and not having that knowledge of it, but also that desire to reconnect and learning that I'm a descendant of Chief Charlo. And I think that's a really cool thing. And I don't want my children, I have a daughter, I don't want her to grow up not knowing those things like I did. and I want her to feel that connection to her heritage that I didn't have. But yeah, so I feel like I'm always treading water a little bit with this as I'm continuing to learn and grow. And I wanted to come and introduce myself and answer any questions and learn from the council here. I mentioned it was kind of threefold, 2.5-fold on, the third or half-fold was meeting Martin's dad, Victor, who I know is a poet and playwright, and I got the chance to meet him and have lunch with him the other day. As I was learning and doing some research about a year or two ago, I read the Missoulian article about when they dedicated the highway to Louis Charlot. And they interviewed Victor, and it said poet and playwright Victor Charlot, and I about fell out of my seat realizing that I was related to another writer, because I don't have any of that on my family that I know. So that's who I am. That's a little bit about what I'm doing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or anything like that. But thank you for your time.
Do you have something, Martin?
Yeah, I just think that, Jace's story is really, not unique to a lot of families here on the reservation. And, it's really incredible how how paths intermingle and then finally cross. And then it's just, I feel like, I've kind of offered to help, him and connect him with some people here. And I think that was one of the things he, not to put words in his mouth, but wanted to kind of know if there's any other things that you guys had, kind of pick your brains as far as, resources that he could do, or even, he's not from here, so places he could see, visit, it's just really a kind of an open-ended, like he said, thing. And it's just something that we, I think we should encourage people to really find out who they are. And even if it's, the stories aren't always the best, it's who we are. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Martin. I'd just like to say good morning to you, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Your story's not unique. We've had a lot of adoptions that people have come back years later to find their roots. So I'm glad that you found it and you're back.
Thank you.
Hope that we get to see you a lot. You're with a great family. They're very open and they know a whole lot of people. So I'm sure that you'll spend most of your time meeting and greeting people. So,
yeah.
But appreciate you coming in this morning and being introduced to you.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. Happy to be here.
Go ahead, Sharma.
Thank you. Jace, I just want to thank you for taking the time. This is an important thing for you to be doing personally, aside from your passion for writing and poetry. So my own experience, my mother was given for adoption when she was very, very young. And she was adopted by individuals within the Kootenai tribe and raised here on the reservation. But I know how that is to come up in a place where you're not really sure about your connections, and that can be very rewarding to make those connections. So on behalf of this tribe, I just want to say welcome to your inheritance. This is a part of your inheritance. If you can have time to spend with the tribal elders and make connections, you'll find that it's a very good place to be, and that everybody takes care of family. And my mother's experience growing up was incredible. And even today, we enjoy that big family feeling in a lot of ways. So I hope that you find that here. I hope that you are able to make those connections, and that your children will know this place as a part of their inheritance as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for coming in today. Last week I sat through a presentation on historical trauma, and it's been interesting to just find as I walk down this path now of understanding and knowledge of really what happened to Indian people. And I started reading a book called There. It's by Tommy Orange, and that historical trauma presentation inspired me to read the book because they talked about numerous books and about what people went through when they moved to California for the, what is it called, relocation program, and what people went through. And a lot of it's similar to your story of, being taken out of your normal environment and then taken away and having to figure it out. So it's been really interesting. But anyway, I just appreciate you coming in and telling your story. We've got quite a few tribal members in the same position as you, but it's good to see you've made it to where you're at today. George Mason University is a big, wow, impressive. So yeah, I'm really proud that you came back to visit us, and now you're starting to understand and learn your history. And this guy's good at it. He knows his family, he knows his history. And so thank you for coming in this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, and just one quick thing I was going to say that you remind me of. I spoke with Martin before, and I'm sure this won't be my last time here. It is my first time, but I'm sure it won't be my last time visiting here. And I would love to have the opportunity, like I said, to give back to the community. We talked about, we'll see where life takes me in different things, but I would love to, come and maybe help host a youth, writing workshop or something like that. These are things I'd love to be a part of in the future. So yeah, I definitely don't want to be a stranger. And I want to help give back, because I do feel like, if there's this weird relationship with the adoption, because my mom was raised by a really good family, and in turn, I've been given so much that, that I owe to that experience in a weird way, and so there's this kind of weird relationship to that adoption and to that separation that I feel. And so I really do want to support the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes in whatever capacity I can,
Thank you.
So thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in this morning, and I'm sure it's not the last time that we're going to see you. We certainly hope not.
Hope not either.
There's a lot of youth groups that are wanting to get started here, so we'll get your contact information, and
I would love that.
yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you very
I
much
think
for your
that'd be
time.
great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Joel's made it. You want to make your way up to the table? Good morning. Mark, is this something that you want to sit up here as well, or? Okay, all right, thank you. Good morning, Joel. Go right ahead. Need to turn your mic on, sorry.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the council. Today, the issue that I have is getting water delivered to a tract of land that I have down by Buffalo Bridge. There's 100 acres of land that's under the project, and I've been working on trying to get water there since about around the 5th of July, somewhere in there. And I can understand that takes a little time to get the water down there, and there's some issues with the ditch. But this is where I wanted to talk about policy. There is a person up above me that has been irrigating since, according to ditch writer, somewhere around about May 17th, continuously, and has refused to shut off. Okay. And so I asked him, I said, wouldn't you be out of quota by now? I mean, that's a long time to run water on your property. And he goes and says, well, apparently according to the ditch writer, the neighbor said that I have the land, you need to deliver me the water. And I'm like, I don't know, I know about how the size of his place is, but what's been going on is where the policy that I wanted to make you aware of. I know there's probably nothing we can do today, but when we start down the road of talking about irrigation priorities and such. What's happened is, and it's happening in other places too, because I talked to, another ditch writer, and what these landowners are doing, they're buying, they have their own property, their home place, we'll say. Then they buy a marginal piece of land that has irrigation under it. And so what happens is you can transfer that irrigation that's on that marginal land over to your home place and just run continuously. Well, what that does, it taxes the system. So I can't get water because he's running continuously. And the neighbor that's also downstream can't get water either for his pivot. And when you come to pivot irrigation, if you don't have enough water in the ditch, your in gun doesn't run, and there's quite a loss of acres there. And so we've tried to, work through this issue. And I guess as a tribe, you're the landowner. You're being denied the water to your own land because of this policy. And I guess I feel like the irrigation project was put in primarily to benefit the Indians. And you're the one getting shortchanged here. I'm the leasee. I'm feeling it right up front because I can't get water to the property. So here it is, 20th of July, and I'm still without water, and doesn't look like I'm going to get anything going unless I get some help from someone to push some buttons to get me some water down to my property. So I hope I explained that well enough, but that's the situation we have, and it's going on other places too. I've seen it. The people are irrigating lands that are above the ditch, and they're, moving water that was never under irrigation onto those properties. I mean, it's great probably, for production and that kind of thing. But think of the people like me that are downstream that can't get the water because they're the ones taking it for other purposes. So just wanted to share that with you. And I have one other issue, but we'll bring that up in a moment.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and members of the council. Joel, first of all, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We would never knew that this was going on until it's brought to us. And so I would like this addressed immediately. If we can't get this information over to the superintendent today, have them get a report back to us, and looking at some options on if we need to change this policy or what we need to do. But here we are in July in the middle of a heat wave, and a lot of our Indian lessees out there are still not getting water. And we all know, we're getting an influx of out-of-staters buying up the property here every day. And a lot of, and like Joel mentioned, a lot of those properties have irrigation project ditches going through them. So if we can get that addressed this week with some options to help Joel out, because not having water in the middle of July and we're right into the heat wave. I mean, that's taking its toll on its operations here. So if we can do that this week.
Thank you, Lynn. Go ahead, Sherman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Joel. Maybe I'm just a little too slow because this is my Monday, but can you restate that policy issue? It's his own well. He's pulling from his own.
No, it's not a well. It's project water.
Okay.
Coming through his property, through the delivery system from the irrigation project.
And you said the policy.
Oh, the policy, as I understand it, because I've not seen it written, but this is what's been going on. And I did talk with the ditch writer. I said, so how does this, how did this come about? He said, well, we allow people to transfer water that they have on another piece of property over to another piece of property that's under the project, which in this instance is his home place. And so to basically double your quota, if you will, you just transfer those irrigation rights, that you have on that quota that you have on this other piece of property over to your home place. So you can basically run continuously. And I have not seen anything written, but that is what has been going on. If that's what's been going on, I guess you have to assume it's a policy at some point. It's been going on for, I don't know, as far as I know, at least 10 years or better.
Thank you, Joel. I just think it's a great illustration of why it was so important for us to move forward with this compact and begin the process of taking a lead in getting the water back where it's supposed to. So appreciate you bringing it up. Thank you.
I'm glad I was able to come in today and talk about this issue because I was somewhat hesitant to do this, but I thought, I bet if I'm just learning about this, this might be something that might be of interest to you because you have staff that sits in these meetings and they're the ones that, need to bring these issues up because it just isn't fair that I'm the last one on the ditch and there's no water for me. And it's certainly, you have the 100 acres of land that's under your ownership, and I pay the same $35 an acre everyone else does, and I'm getting absolutely nothing out of it.
Okay, Carol?
Yeah, Joel, it seems like you have some kind of a legal recourse for claims of damages for your crops. If there is a policy like this in place that is, injuring you. But I want to say, I got a call this weekend from a Detroiter. And there is a lot of crazy stuff going on, according to him. I guess Ryan went to a meeting, I think it was at the Red Lion. I wish the council would have known about it so we could have been there to talk to the Detroiters or irrigation employees. And I'm not sure what was said there, but now it sounds like the non-Indians are pulling these Detroiters aside and say, you're either with us or you're with them. And it's really doing a lot of, I guess, damage, to these individuals. I mean, they don't know which way to go. They're afraid for their jobs. They have families and, their livelihoods are here. And so it's a huge concern how they are pressuring. And I would say it's probably not a policy. It's probably a pressure on a ditch writer. And they say if you're a new ditch writer, 3 years, it'll take you to at least kind of get a concept of what you're doing. And so now I kind of get an idea, but this guy's been on for, he says 6 years. And he has a pretty good idea of, what he does, but he says he gets confronted by people all the time. And it's really not, it's kind of a scary proposition that he's in. So I think there's a lot of pressure out there. Maybe you should need to tell Ryan Rushi, the ditch writer's name. I don't know. I would like to know. And then the policy, it should be available to you. Or have you requested it through the superintendent or?
No, I have not requested it. This is just, I knew about it last year, but this now, I'm more living it now because I just can't seem to get water. You have to be at least a good neighbor if I'm going to get some water.
Yeah.
And I don't know what changed. I'm pretty darn sure because of the heat wave, he just doesn't want to turn off.
And then I was at a meeting, Boys and Girls Club meeting last night, and one of our potato farmers, who is a member of the board, Boys and Girls Board, he said he's not getting water, but all these reservoirs are full. I don't know, I haven't looked at the reservoirs lately,
either.
but when I go by 9 Pipe, it looks pretty darn full. And he said they're not getting the water. And I'm like, why? And of course, we were in the middle of a different meeting, so I couldn't really get into it, talk to him about it. But I think that concerns me. He's non-Indian. So I don't know what's going on.
Well, it's probably something, it sounds like there's bigger issues here too that we need to, get on top of. And, hopefully we'll get some water out of this, but I just don't know about the way the system is set up and the policy it's there. It's just big enough to, to deliver me any amount of water to get my crop irrigated.
So thank you, Joel, for coming in. Mike, go ahead, then I'll.
Joel, you're saying that the fellow transferred the rights from one field to his home place and he's still irrigating on that field as well?
Yeah.
That
And
doesn't,
I don't, the word transfer, don't take that as illegal. They're just allowed to move that quota over to his home place.
well, I would
Yeah.
think you lose it on the original place. then,
Yes, you do, as far as I understand.
But he's still irrigating there,
Not on the one that he's
transferring from.
moved the water over.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you said he doubled his quota.
Well, I'm assuming that he had the same number of acres over here as he did on his home place,
Yeah,
which allowed it to, to continuously irrigate.
yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. If we can have Rick and Ryan work with Joel on this and have them report back to council
Yes, thank you.
this week.
Lynn, that's what I was wanting is if Rick could coordinate a meeting with Ryan and Shanna at BIA and superintendents and then get the report back to us, because this isn't the first time, Joel, I've been familiar with this for over 30 years.
Uh-huh.
There's people that are misusing it. They've got pivots that are set up above, and anyone at the end of the line, you're lucky to see a drop of water. So I'd like to have a report as well. Go ahead, Rick.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think Ryan is on, and I'll let him speak to it, but over the weekend, when we talked this morning, it sounded like he was working on some of these same issues that are kind of throughout the project. So aware of it, and if you would like, he could probably provide some update right now. If that works, then we'll just work through the technical difficulties of getting him live. Thanks.
See that Ryan's on here. I don't know if he can hear us. Ryan, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now, Ryan. We've
All
got
right, great.
a video here this morning that's talking about the Flathead Indian Irrigation Project, and they're talking about delivery of water on a tribal lease. And evidently, he's at the end of the line and getting nothing. And even though he's ordered water way back in May, it's July 23rd and having problems. And our question is too that Joel can kind of explain a little better, but the individual supposedly above him did some kind of a transfer from his marginal ground to some other piece that he bought. And we need a report or something on that, Ryan, as we get through this week. But I'll let Joel explain a little better.
Good morning, Ryan. This is Joel Claremont. Where the property is located is at Buffalo Bridge, and I'm the last one on the ditch. There's 100 acres of water on that property, and it's tribally owned. And what's going on above me, there is a individual that has land under the project, and he's irrigating his home place. And what he also has is another piece of property that's away from his home place. It's more marginal, that he's taking the water that's on that piece of property and transferring it over to the home place. And so he's been running continuously on that since May 17th, 16th, something like that. And what it's done is it doesn't allow the water to get through his place to get to me. And so my 100 acres basically hasn't had hardly any water to it at all. And so what it looks like to me, there's a policy that allows that transfer to occur. But what it does, it taxes the system where it goes through this individual's property to get to me, because the ditch isn't big enough or the water delivery isn't there, because they can't get it from Pablo Reservoir through this canal system to get enough water so I can irrigate. So I guess that's in a nutshell what's going on. And just, though I've not seen a policy, I've just visited with the ditch riders, and that's what they've shared with me. And if you know anything more about that, I'd like to know. And maybe we can get, to the bottom of the issue here of trying to get me some water.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. So I've never seen a policy like that either, but I will try to track it down and I'll get into it here this morning and see what I can try to find out. I have been, as Rick said, heard from other irrigators that there was a pretty significant shortage within the flooded district, I guess beginning sort of on Friday or so. So I've heard that from a number of places. So looking at that as well. So, but yeah, if maybe after the meeting here, we can connect by phone and get some more specifics from you.
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Great.
And if we can hear back on this, at least within a week, Ryan, I'd really appreciate it because I've heard other people complaining and I know that we had an early runoff and then of course we got this drought going on. But this individual, this problem has been here a lot of years and they can't keep ditch riders. I mean, it's a hard job. And I know that it's unfair to landowners when they got the same crops and they're not able to get that water on it. So I would like to visit with Shauna as well if we can get some kind of a meeting coordinated.
Sure, I'm sure she'd be happy to do that. Yeah, I'll definitely report back to council, and if we can get something scheduled, we'll try to do that.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, council, for your time and addressing this
You
issue.
bet.
Cross our fingers that we're going to get some water down there. Really, thank you for your help.
Joel, you said you had one other.
Oh,
What-
I do. I just didn't know if you had time for me. What it is I was in here approximately a year ago where I've been, there's an easement through the Fitzpatrick property, and I've been denied access through there to get to my lease, and that's still ongoing. And council at that time was looking at, the options, and one of them was to build a road and get through that property and over to my lease that I have. And it's been nearly a year, and I just wanted to know where we're at on that. Just haven't heard, so.
Mark, can you address that?
Trade out. This one works better. Yeah, we actually have been working on that one with Holly Hitchcock and the BIA. Since Joel came in, council wanted us to move forward with the road build. The issue with that is that we're breaking up ground. We have to have a NEPA done. So we are working on the NEPA process right now with the regional office. There's some issues with the regional office that we've been working out, trying to get that situated so we could get that NEPA completed. With that, then it comes down to BIA road system. That is a BIA 1000 road when you get past the Fitzpatrick's property. We have no access. There is no easement or anything going across the fee land at the bottom. It has been used in the past for years under a handshake deal, but there was never anything established. So this is why we were looking at doing a new road build, so we didn't even have to worry about that after this. But the BIA road system, and it does tie into this new road needs the NEPA done. Plus it has to get put on the BIA inventory. So that could be funded also to be up to the BIA specs. CSKT, forestry, or even fire, we're not road builders. We do contract road builders. When it comes to forestry, that's usually under a forestry contract. So blading it or anything like that does need to fit a certain criteria under BIA. That's why the NEPA has to be done and all the cultural clearances. So that's where we're still sitting on it right now, waiting for that NEPA to be completed and approved through the regional office.
So Mark, is it something that you can call down and see where they're at
I
on that
will
issue?
check with Holly Hitchcock again, because I know that she had been in contact. I think it was with Anna Schmidt, the NEPA coordinator down there, or it was Jacelyn. I can't remember which one she had been dealing with on the issues with that paperwork.
Okay. Go ahead, Lynn.
So are we still assessing, Joel, the fees for the use of the lease?
Yeah, he's still been able to use the lease. He still uses it. We have a working agreement right now with Diana to go through the property. We also had that working agreement because of the tower site up top. And we've been working out a little bit of hiccups in that for the key access and the gate, because it is locked, to keep that access open. They do not want access across their property. They were allowing tribal lands, fish and game, the tower people, and Joel to come and go with notification. We are hoping to get this road issue in place and built, so then we don't have to ever worry about this situation anymore. That was the one thing that we were wanting to do, and we thought it was going to be a little bit quicker than it is. But due to the NEPA and the new NEPA coordinators down there at the regional office, we are jumping through some hoops to get that all approved.
Okay. Joel?
I guess one asked the big question, what's the timeline look like?
I can't give you that. It's not in my office standpoint. It is dealing with the region. When the region can sign off on it, finally give us the approval to move forward, then it looks like we have to look at the BIA roads department to get it on their tip. Because it's got to take a bridge or some oversized culverts across the ditch that's there for an access point. Because nobody wanted to use the access that's already there. It was determined that the quicker and easier one would be the closer one for funding and everything was up closer to the property corner instead of the one that's already existed. So that's another issue that has to come up down the line. First, the NEPA has to be done first.
Okay.
Mike, did you have some?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark, it seems like when we talked about this issue before, you had mentioned that Fitzpatrick's have a piece of property landlocked by the tribe.
That is correct.
How do they access that?
There is no fence around it. I don't know if they utilize it or not. They can possibly going up to it. I don't have the answer for that.
Wouldn't they require an easement from us to get to the property?
There could be an easement in place on that. There could be a crossing permit that was done. I don't have the answer to that right now.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Lynn.
So has the environmental assessment been started yet?
Yes, we were working on it. We were trying to tag that on with the tower one because that is part of the road system that has to be used for the tower. Since we don't have an easement on the bottom, that's why we were taking that on with the lower one. That's where we're having the issue with them down there to get that approved underneath the breaking of ground and some other issues. It is tribal property and it's tribal access. So there is being an issue with just some red tape through the BIA. Dotting the I's, crossing T's to get that approved.
Okay, well, I would think that it'd be in the best interest of us to get that road done so we don't have to worry about access, but I'd sure like to have a report on it within a week or two
I will
on
follow
how
up with
it's
Holly
going with,
and get another report back to you guys.
okay. Any other questions?
Just one other comment, if we could also keep Joel, contact Joel and give him an update on where we're at.
Will do.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, thank you, council, for your time addressing these issues.
You have a great day.
You too.
Hopefully we can get something going.
Hope you too.
Mission Valley Power, our FY 22 budget. Looks like it starts on page 2 to 8. Good morning, John.
How's that? That's much better. The budget starts there, and what we're looking for is this is part of the 93,638 contract requirement that the FY 22 budget be turned into the regional office in July prior to council approval, staff approval, and board approval. We just got scheduled today, so I don't have a board member with me today, but I do have the minutes from our prior meeting of the approval. And so what we're looking forward today to is to have a motion to pass this budget and a signature so that we may move the budget forward to the regional office in Portland. I would stand for any questions on the budget.
So you do have the minutes, are they attached? I didn't see them.
I do have them here. I just brought them in. We didn't attach them, so I could make copies or send over.
Give it to Jen and she can make a copy.
So some of the highlights that I'd like to be able to discuss is that for a power company, we've seen material prices quadruple this year. We've seen our lead times quadruple for receiving material. It slowed items down quite a bit. As we all know, at the end of the fiscal year, we start over from a scratch and we start with a new budget. So this has been challenging on what can come this year, what's going to arrive. But I'm proud to say that we're still able to keep our maintenance up, still be able to keep the power flowing. And we are seeing a 5-year high of new services, mostly contained. Most of our new services have been contained within transfers or service upgrades, not necessarily new buildings. So while we're seeing an increase, it's not too large yet. So it's still within reason, but we are staying very busy at this time.
Go ahead, Carol.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the budget for Mission Valley Power and send it on to Portland.
Motion by Carol, second by Martin. All those in favor? Unanimous, motion carries.
One follow-up, Madam Chair. I hate to always be Debbie Downer, but just OSHA compliance. I seen a truck at night pointing at me and I was coming down the road and I didn't even know what it was. It scared me. I thought, well, is somebody trying to stop me? And so I started to back up, but I realized after a while that they were fixing our water pump out there, but there were no lights to instruct that they were, people out there fixing the power lines. And so it would be nice. And one of them didn't even have brake lights, the trailer that they were pulling.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I know you guys are really on top of your OSHA requirements. So that was a concern to me. I thought, wow, it's not like Mission Valley Power. So I was surprised to even see it was Mission Valley Power.
I appreciate you sharing that. All the vehicles have beacons on them.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested why it wasn't operating. So we'll follow up on
Yeah,
that.
but it doesn't seem like either one of the big truck or the small, the follow truck or lead truck.
The chase
Yeah.
truck or the service truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's brought up weekly in safety meetings, so we'll make sure
Okay.
that we remind them.
It didn't come from me.
No, I didn't. You got
We're
it.
live. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah.
But no, they do good work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Charmel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jean, I'm just interested if it's available to us, maybe through Rick, if we can get a side-by-side comparison of FY 21 and 22, just to kind of see kind of where you're going. I'm interested in knowing that.
Sure, we do that comparison. I'd be glad to forward that. We just did that for the board, so
Thank
I will
you.
forward that and share that with the group.
Okay, thank you very much.
One other comment that I'd like to make is one item that we looked at moving forward for this year was moving to a PLX system that was going to allow us to replace all our meters and get better reads from our meters over the lines. That was a material item that was delayed this year, so we had $1 million in the budget for this year, which we ended up having to disseminate into capital. That would be in that comparison that you're speaking of, that would show that we had an opportunity to buy meters, but they weren't going to come on time, so we moved that because we weren't going to get our first delivery until October. So just tricky playing that game. But we'll figure out whether we end up at the end of the year and we're able to utilize that money for FY21 stuff as material got quite a bit more expensive. So just a constant juggling game. But otherwise, things look good for us going forward. It looks like we'll start our implementation in October, which will give the customers more ability to see what they're doing on their end. And we're looking forward to adjusting our rate structure so that our rates are done on a tier instead of sold in one block. So it gives the customers more ability to handle what they're doing at their house versus just it being all sold the same. So the people that utilize more power will pay more. The people that utilize less will pay less, is the way that it works out. So gives the customers more power from inside their home to control what they do. That's my report.
Okay. Sounds great, and we look forward to getting that comparison. Is there anything else for Jean?
Just a
Okay,
signature.
just a signature.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jean. We're running about 15 minutes ahead. We want to take a break until legal comes in at 10:15. Okay. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order, and we've got an update with the legal department. Rhonda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's good to be back in person.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is this something that, are we going to stay in regular, or do we need executive, Rhonda? Or are you going to let us know when you do?
I'm going to begin the presentation in regular session, and then the presentation from Brian, he will ask for executive. He's
Okay,
going to
thank you.
update you on the Bison Range budget, and I'm going to talk about the general split of legal from implementation of the water rights settlement. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda. Go ahead.
Well, first, my presentation is the result of a misunderstanding. Evidently, the budget committee has taken over this responsibility in terms of approving the strategic planning and performance worksheet. But the letter didn't say that. It just had a blank for date of council approval. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you how we're going to do things this year. The legal department, in terms of goals and objectives, is mostly reactive. That is, we respond to requests for defense, threats from the outside organizations, requests for comments or evaluation, and we wait until those come up before we are making assignments. With respect to the assignments that will come about as a result of your strategic planning session, the 7 items you identified as top priorities, we're going to do that in a support manner in however we can. I've been working with Rick and Ryan, and we're trying to get around the idea of legal department employees. Instead, we're having a team effort that we're part of the CSKT team, and we'll provide input and provide our expertise as it is needed. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Basically, we haven't been part of your strategic planning. We haven't been informed as to what you've decided. I think it's exciting that you're doing it. And I understand your reorganization has taken a lot off of your table. However, we'd like to continue to be part of the organization and provide what assistance we can. In terms of taking the implementation of the Water Settlement Compact out of legal, Ryan will be handling most of that. With respect to our budget, we'll still continue to have 2 budgets, one for the legal department and then one for implementation. That used to be the water rights settlement account. But we still have some ongoing contracts we need to pay for, and things like public relations and lobbying that came out of that water rights support budget. So we'll be continuing those. It'll be at a much reduced rate. Is that any questions?
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, in a way, I think we're all experiencing that same thing, Rhonda, that kind of a disconnect. And I think it's because it's so new that we're not all involved. And like a council member, I know Madam Chair and the top level executives have, meetings and stuff that I'm not aware of. And so, and it's not being disrespectful. It's just that, I don't think we all should be included every single time, but sometimes that kind of thing happens. And I think that's, to me, what's happening is that we're all, this is so new that who do we invite or that kind of thing. So I kind of feel the same thing on this whole process, so.
Well, we don't have a particular role in providing the direct services I think you've identified as top goals for the tribal council, such as homelessness, food sovereignty, language, mental health, addiction, but we'll provide as much assistance as we can. just um, a plea to not forget water resources, water, natural resources, and land. Those are the trust that we have to continue to protect for the tribal membership.
Go ahead, Shermel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, with thinking about those resolutions, those priority resolutions that we just passed and the ones that are yet to come, some of those, I'm hoping that we'll have really solid and an early onset of like policy advice, policy review and advice, because, you know, like just homelessness, for example, and as we fold in the eradicating addictions and things like that, and those things coming together, I really believe that, you know, your department's role and our policy analyst role is going to be very necessary to, in the early stages, to make sure that those teams are able to recognize the nuances and the issues of federal law that that we aren't probably going to be thinking of first and foremost. So that's one area that I hope that we'll be able to make sure our executive team is reaching out and providing us with that. The whole council needs to understand that as well, because, you know, we'll be breaking off possibly and somewhat shepherding or liaising or whatever the term's going to be with some of those groups. So as long as we can understand the best that we can provide the guidance that we should be providing as well. So I think we should be teaming up pretty closely with that. Thank you.
I just wanted to say I think this is a wonderful opportunity because you provide most of these services now. So what works, what didn't, what can we do differently is a great opportunity for the whole tribal employment to participate in. And that's all I have. If there aren't any questions, Rick anticipated you'd have a lot of discussion, but I guess not. And the budget committee will go over all of these strategic planning goals and objectives and approve them or not. My request is that you consider our request for both budgets because we have ongoing responsibilities in terms of implementation. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Sherma.
I guess just one other thing, Rhonda, you know, you and some of your staff have been there for a really long time, and, you know,
yeah,
I didn't mean that in a really like weird way, but in a good way. It's the, you know, transfer of knowledge is so important all the time. And I guess I'm curious if there's time that we can have Madam Chair and Rick and Rhonda, I would love to just have some open dialogue about, you know, kind of the legal department services, how we can better utilize services possibly. I think that things tend to change, kind of shift depending on who's on council or whatever. And this reorganization is certainly, I think, a time that we need to talk about that a little bit more. In my opinion, I would love to hear a little bit more from just an open dialogue about what we might consider as a better use of our legal resources. Thank you.
we'd be happy to participate in that and have great ideas. At least we think they're great.
Okay, thank you, Rhonda. Anything else for Rhonda? Rick, do you have anything to add?
The reason why I asked that, Madam Chair, is because Rhonda said, you know, Rick thought it would be a long discussion. Maybe we're missing something.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing specific to add. I just thought based on the general, I guess, flavor that I've received from council that there might have been some discussion or dialogue about the kind of how we all fit together. And it sounds like there will be at some point in the future, but there was nothing above and beyond what Rhonda shared that I thought would be a topic that you missed or anything. I do think the idea of within the reorganization is in particular when we start to move forward with the actions that are based on those resolutions that were passed last week, that particular discussion is going to be a good one to have everyone on the same page and kind of understanding who does what and who's on first and those things. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Well, I hope you're all thinking about it and have more to say later. Thank you, and Brian will be next.
Thank you, Rhonda. Have a good day.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Rick.
It looks like we might get wrapped up with the legal update. There are a couple things that Jen was working on for updates for council that can fit in after this. One's on Blue Bay and another one is on anyway, so if you end early, we have some just updates that staff can provide for council.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Jen had mentioned a couple. Go ahead, Brian. Good morning.
Morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Council. I'd recommend executive session for the update.
Okay, we'll go out of regular into executive. I think we're still on live here.